An unlikely young man arrives on Wall Street carrying only determination, scars from the past, and a promise made to his father. Amidst looks of disdain and relentless challenges, he will discover that true value lies not just in numbers, but in the courage to believe. Daniel Ruiz tightened the navy blue bow tie with trembling hands as he gazed at the imposing glass tower rising before him. The building seemed to touch the sky, reflecting the New York morning sun in its thousands of windows. It was his first day at Richardson & Associates, one of the most prestigious brokerage firms on Wall Street, and every heartbeat seemed to echo in his ears. Just breathe, he muttered to himself, adjusting the synthetic leather briefcase his mother had bought on sale to celebrate his achievement. It wasn't Italian like the other analysts, but it carried something far more valuable: hope. At 24, Daniel was the youngest and most unlikely hire in the analyst program for the season. His degree didn't come from Harvard or Wharton, but from a state university, earned between night shifts serving coffee and weekends spent hunched over books at the public library. Every page studied, every sleepless night had a purpose greater than just a job on Wall Street. As he passed through the revolving doors, he adjusted the small golden pin hidden on the inside lapel of his suit, an eagle with open wings that had belonged to his father. Miguel Ruiz had been a small-time investor, a simple man with dreams too big for his own good. "I will restore our name, father," thought Daniel as he entered the mirrored elevator. "I promise." The 42nd floor was a world apart. The Italian marble floor gleamed under the natural light streaming in through the huge windows. Executives in impeccable suits moved with the confidence of those who controlled the financial destiny of the world. Daniel immediately felt out of place, as if everyone could perceive that he did not belong in that environment. Jessica Miller, the human resources manager, a woman in her early 40s with a keen look, greeted him with a professional smile. "Mr. Ruiz, welcome to Richardson & Associates," she said, guiding him down the main corridor. "You are in the junior analyst program, correct? One of the 50 selected out of more than 5,000 applicants." "Yes," Daniel replied, trying to mask his nervousness. "I am very grateful for the opportunity." Jessica gave a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Gratitude is good, but here you will be measured by results. The competition is intense. Only the best remain after the probationary period." As they walked, Daniel noticed the curious and assessing glances. Some of the younger analysts whispered as they passed, and he managed to catch snippets of the conversation from the state and diversity program. The space designated for Daniel was a small desk in a corner of the floor, far from the panoramic windows, with a computer that seemed at least 2 years older than the others. A subtle message about his position in the unofficial hierarchy. "Orientation meeting in 15 minutes in the Rockefeller Room," Jessica informed before leaving. Daniel placed his briefcase in the drawer, took a deep breath, and pulled from his pocket the worn-out photo he always carried with him. In it, his father smiled in front of the small house where they lived before everything fell apart. Miguel Ruiz had the same confident smile and determined eyes that his son had inherited. "It's just the beginning, Dad," he whispered, carefully putting the photo away. The first week passed like a whirlwind. Daniel arrived before everyone else and left after most, absorbing every detail, every number, every market trend. At night, in his small apartment in Queens, he reviewed his notes while eating instant noodles, a stark contrast to the expensive lunches his colleagues enjoyed at exclusive restaurants. Among the 50 analysts, natural groups formed. On one side, the Ivy League graduates, children of bankers and executives, with their stories of summers in the Hamptons and influential family connections. On the other, a smaller group of outsiders, talented enough to be hired but forever marked by their less privileged backgrounds. Brad Thompson, a tall blonde from Yale, seemed to have made Daniel his favorite target. "Hey, Ruiz, the cafeteria is on the ground floor if you're looking for an extra job," he once teased, drawing laughter from the colleagues around. Daniel merely smiled politely and continued his work. He wasn't there to make friends, but to rewrite a story that had been tragically interrupted. 6 years earlier, Miguel Ruiz had invested all of the family savings in a high-risk fund, following advice from brokers who promised extraordinary returns. When the market collapsed, he lost everything. The weight of guilt, the piling bills, the disappointed looks from his wife, it was all too much. A heart attack took him on a rainy April night, leaving behind a widow and an 18-year-old son marked by the burden of bankruptcy. Daniel spent his college years watching his mother work 2 jobs to support them while he juggled studies and work. The silent promise made to his father guided every decision, every sacrifice. It was in the 3rd week that the opportunity arose. Nathan Parker, the director of emerging markets analysis, requested that the junior analysts prepare projections for the next quarter. A chance to show value. Daniel immersed himself in his work like never before. While his colleagues focused on traditional sectors, oil, pharmaceuticals, technology, he noticed an undervalued trend: the steady growth of renewable energy companies in specific markets in Asia and Latin America. He spent the entire weekend analyzing data, cross-referencing information, and building predictive models. The small tabletop fan could barely keep up with the heat in his air-conditionerless apartment, but he hardly noticed, absorbed in spreadsheets and reports. On Monday, the Rockefeller meeting room was packed. Executives from different departments gathered to hear the analyses. Brad was the first to present, displaying a studied confidence as he recommended investments in oil and natural gas. Others followed him with equally conservative forecasts. When it was Daniel's turn, he felt his heart race. He stood up, adjusted his papers, and began. My analysis suggests a significant opportunity in renewable energy companies in emerging markets, he said, projecting carefully crafted charts. If we observe the pattern of the last few quarters, there's consistency in growth, even amidst global volatility. These 3 companies, in particular, show solid indicators. A tense silence filled the room. Brad was the first to break the ice with a restrained laugh. Look at that. The planet's savior boy, he commented loudly enough for everyone to hear. Are you going to trade oil for wind turbines? Other laughs followed. Nathan Parker adjusted his glasses impatiently. Ruiz, we're not in a classroom here. We're talking about billions of reais. Focus on what really matters, he interrupted coldly. Daniel felt the heat rise to his face. His hands trembled slightly as he gathered his papers. The muffled laughter around seemed amplified in his ears. For a moment, he saw his father's face, the same shame, the same feeling of inadequacy. Thank you for the opportunity, he managed to say before returning to his seat. What Daniel didn't notice was the man sitting discreetly in the corner of the room. Richard Whitmore, the chairman of the brokerage, rarely appeared at operational meetings. At 62, he was a living legend of Wall Street, respected not only for his business genius but for his unusually humanized vision of the financial market. Whitmore observed every laugh, every look of disdain, without saying a word. His blue eyes, marked by decades of experience, followed Daniel as he returned, head down, to his seat. When the meeting ended, Daniel hurried to leave. He just wanted to hide at his desk, away from the mocking glances. But a deep voice stopped him. Ruiz, could you stay a moment? The room fell silent instantly. The executives exchanged surprised looks. The chairman rarely addressed junior analysts directly. Brad gave Daniel one last mocking look before leaving with the others. When they were alone, Whitmore approached slowly, resting his hands on the back of a chair. His tailored suit contrasted with his unpretentiously relaxed posture. Do you believe in what you presented? He asked directly. Daniel took a deep breath. It was over anyway. He could at least leave with dignity. Yes, sir, he replied, looking into the chairman's eyes. Not only do I believe, I studied every line, every projection. I know I might be wrong, but it wasn't a guess. It was dedication. To his surprise, a slight smile appeared on Whitmore's lips. Courage is rare around here, said the chairman, examining the charts Daniel had left on the table. And sometimes, vision is too. I want you to prepare a full report. I want to see more. In the following weeks, Daniel worked with renewed intensity. During the day, he fulfilled his regular duties. At night and on weekends, he dedicated himself to the special report for Whitmore. The chairman began calling him regularly for private meetings. Whitmore questioned, challenged, suggested new approaches. More than a superior, he became an unlikely mentor. Did your father work with investments? Whitmore asked once, while they were reviewing projections. The question caught Daniel by surprise. Yes, how did you know? There's a familiarity in your approach. An intuitive understanding of patterns, Whitmore replied. After a pause, he added, and I did my research on you. Daniel felt a knot in his throat. He was a small investor. He lost everything in the 2017 crash. Whitmore nodded slowly. Many lost, some due to bad luck, others from bad advice. It was more than that for him. Daniel found himself confiding. It was his dream to provide a better life for us. When he lost everything, he also lost the will to live. A knowing silence hung between them. Finally, Whitmore spoke. I've been in this market longer than you've been alive, Ruiz. I've learned that the best analysts aren't those who understand just numbers, but those who understand people, who recognize the real impact behind the decisions we make. Hey. At that moment, Daniel understood he had found not just a mentor, but someone who shared his vision of the greater purpose of finance. The tension in the office increased as the probationary period drew to a close. Rumors circulated about who would be hired permanently and who would be let go. Brad and his group seemed increasingly hostile towards Daniel, especially after noticing his frequent meetings with the chairman. He must be cleaning his office at night, Brad insinuated loudly in the cafeteria. There's no other reason for Whitmore to pay attention to someone like him. Daniel ignored the taunts, focusing on the final report he would present the following morning. It was his chance to prove his worth, not just to others, but to himself. That night, in his apartment, he prepared meticulously. He reviewed every slide, every number, every projection. Then, he picked up the phone and called his mother. Tomorrow is the big day, she said with the accent she had never fully lost. Your father would be so proud, my son. I hope so, Mom, he replied, looking at the worn-out photo on his makeshift desk. Everything I do is for him, for us. No, Daniel, she gently corrected him. What you do is because you are like him. Determined. Honest. After hanging up, Daniel ran his fingers over the small golden eagle brooch. Tomorrow we fly together, Dad, he whispered. The boardroom was full the next morning. All the directors, including Nathan Parker, were present. Brad and other junior analysts were invited to attend, an unusual occurrence that further fueled curiosity and speculation. Richard Whitmore was the last to enter, imposing in his charcoal gray suit. Everyone stood up in deference. He gestured for them to sit and began without preliminaries. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 months ago, I requested Mr. Ruiz to develop an in-depth analysis on opportunities in emerging markets, focusing on renewable energy. Today, we will hear his conclusions. Murmurs swept through the room. Brad furrowed his brow, clearly surprised and displeased. When Daniel stood up to present, he felt a chill down his spine. It wasn't fear, but the almost tangible sensation of a decisive moment. With a steady voice, he began. Good morning, everyone. What I will present today is not just a market analysis, but a vision of the future. Over the next 40 minutes, Daniel methodically unveiled his research. He showed how 3 specific companies were positioned for exponential growth in the coming quarters. He detailed the regulatory, technological, and social factors underpinning his thesis. He presented risk models and alternative scenarios. The initially skeptical room was gradually captured by his presentation. Even the most conservative directors were taking notes and exchanging impressed glances. As it concluded, a contemplative silence took over the room. It was Richard Whitmore who broke it. What Mr. Ruiz has just presented is not just an investment opportunity. It is a demonstration of the kind of thinking we need to cultivate in this institution. Independent, grounded, and bold. Nathan Parker adjusted his tie, visibly uncomfortable. With all due respect, Mr. Whitmore, these are 2 bold projections, based on risky premises. Just like all the great innovations in our industry, Whitmore replied with a serene smile. Gentlemen, I have decided that Richardson & Associates will create a new fund focused on sustainability and innovation in emerging markets. And Mr. Ruiz will be an integral part of the team. Looks of surprise spread across the room. Brett seemed to have swallowed something bitter. One more thing, added Whitmore, standing up. Mr. Ruiz identified these opportunities when all of us were looking in the opposite direction. It makes me wonder, what else are we missing due to a lack of diverse perspectives? 3 months later, Daniel's projections began to materialize. The 3 companies he identified showed growth beyond the market's expectations. The new fund led by Whitmore, with Daniel as the lead analyst, attracted significant investments. On a Friday afternoon, Daniel was called to the chairman's office. Whitmore was standing by the window, watching the sunset paint the Manhattan skyline. "You've proven your worth, Ruiz," he said without turning around. "But I have a question. Why Wall Street? Why here? Especially after what happened to your father?" Daniel approached the window. Below, the city pulsed with its frenetic rhythm. "Because I believe we can do things differently," he replied. "That finance doesn't have to be just about profit at any cost. It can be about creating real value, about a positive impact." Whitmore smiled. "Do you know why I called you for that first conversation, after the meeting where everyone laughed at you?" Daniel shook his head. "Because I saw in your eyes the same determination I had when I started 40 years ago, before Wall Street taught me to confuse value with price." Whitmore turned to face him. "I want you to work directly with me on a new project. But remember, true value isn't in what we own in here, but in what we leave out there. Don't waste this chance." Daniel nodded, deeply understanding the words of his mentor. "I won't waste it, sir. I promise." That Sunday, Daniel visited the small cemetery on the outskirts of the city. He placed fresh flowers on his father's grave and sat on the freshly cut grass. "I made it, Dad," he said softly. "But it wasn't how I imagined. I learned that restoring our name isn't about money or status. It's about integrity, about making a difference." He took the golden eagle brooch from his pocket and pinned it to his shirt, visible for all to see. "Mr. Whitmore says that Wall Street needs to change, that we need to remember that behind every number, there are real people, real dreams." Daniel smiled, feeling a peace-long absent. "I think you would say the same." As the sun began to set, Daniel remained there, in contemplative silence. In the past few weeks, he had learned more about courage, dignity, and purpose than in all his years of study. And so, in the heart of the jungle of concrete and ambition, an understanding was born that would guide him in the years to come. True wealth is not measured in figures, but in the character that supports each decision and in the faith that gives life meaning. Beyond the glass walls of the skyscrapers, there was a world waiting for change, and he was ready to be a part of it.